So how a bill becomes a law. Every bill starts as an idea, whether that is suggested by an average citizen or by a member of Congress or by an interest group or lobby group, a business, or by the president. A bill needs to be written by a congressperson. Now, sometimes interest groups will write a bill themselves and give it to a congressperson or senator to introduce. But either way, it has to be brought by the congressperson or senator and formally introduced, which basically means putting it in a box. There's a box in Congress, they put it in there, and those are bills to be considered. Now, in each body of Congress, the House of Representatives or the Senate, they have their own process. The process is the same in each of them, but if a bill is introduced in the Senate, it goes to the Senate process. If the bill is introduced in the House of Representatives, it goes to the House of Representatives process. And for a bill to make it to the president's desk to potentially be signed into a law, it has to go through both processes. So it will go through, for example, the House of Representatives, and if it makes it all the way through, it'll then go to the Senate to go through the same thing. So, for example, if I introduce a bill in the House of Representatives, it goes into the submission box, basically that inbox, and it sits there on a desk. The leadership of the House, so the Speaker of the House, gets to decide what happens with that bill. So they could just look at it and go, nah, and stop it right there. It won't go any further. If they do want to do something with it, what they do is they send it to a committee. Now, committees exist on all different subjects. The committees are made up of members of the House of Representatives, usually about 10 to 15. Who is on those committees is decided by the leadership. So whatever party controls that part of Congress, they will decide who's in those committees, and they'll make sure that their party has a majority of each of those committees. So, for example, in the House of Representatives, this bill that has been introduced, say the Speaker decides to give it to a certain committee. Say it's a bill that has to do with taxes, so they give it to the Ways and Means Committee. The committee then has the ability to amend, so to change the bill in any way they want. This is where little things can be added on, little things can be taken out. They also can get a budget assessment. So the Congressional Budget Office is a group of analysts and accountants who will assess the bill and then produce a report on what its long-term budget effects would be. So they might say, overall, this will reduce the budget of the United States. Maybe it spends more than it brings in. Or maybe it will be budget neutral. It doesn't cost any money. Or maybe it brings in as much in taxes as it spends. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe it brings in more in taxes than it spends. Once the committee votes on whether or not they want to move the bill onward, it would go back to the House of Representatives main floor. Now, most bills end up getting voted down in committee. For whatever reason, the committee decides not to pass it, or sometimes they don't even bother to vote on it. They just decide it's not worth sending to the main floor. If it does make it to the main floor, though, it goes back into that box for the leadership to schedule. So it goes back into the box, basically. The leadership can look at it and say, okay, this one's been passed in committee. Do we want to schedule it for an official vote? Now, again, the leadership could just say, no, even though it passed committee, we're not into it. We want to just stop it right here. However, if they do decide to go forward with it, what they do is they send it to a different committee, the Rules Committee, who decides what the rules for the debate will be on that bill. So how many people get to speak, how long will they get to speak, how many people will get to speak in favor of the bill, how many people will get to speak against the bill. Then they'll go to the floor and they'll have a vote. That's where debates happen. People give speeches. You see here, it's becoming more and more popular to use these poster boards. People can speak for the bill, against the bill. In the Senate, this is when filibusters could potentially happen. Now, we're not going to go into the detail of filibusters, but effectively, a filibuster is when someone tries to give a speech long enough that they run out the amount of time that is allotted for debate. So it's just kind of a stall tactic. It has changed. The rules around filibusters have changed in the last couple of years. So you don't actually have to stand there and talk for 24 plus hours anymore. And Democrats, if they get control of the Senate, might even get rid of it entirely. Then they have a vote. This video is on Schoology. You can watch it separately. If it passes, for example, the House of Representatives, it would then be introduced back into the Senate at step 1. So a bill has to go through that entire process in both the House and the Senate and be passed in both to make it to the president's